Welcome to Make a Difference with Phil Martelli. I'm Jared Phillips with Phil Martelli. It is a very busy week in the college basketball season, and not really so much because of what's happening on the court, but really what's happening off the court. A lot of these student athletes dealing with finals right now. It's a lot to juggle, and especially from a coach's perspective, you're trying to help these guys make sure they stay in good standing so that they can be on the court for you guys. I mean, I'm
The
interested to know how you kind of balance that.
Yeah, there's a lot that goes on right now. Like, let's take our high school followers, people that are viewing. Most of them are starting their seasons, and there's the excitement that goes into that. But then when you take it to the college level, and I don't care if it's Division 1, Division 2, or Division 3, this is somewhat around finals week. So a couple of things happen with your team. One is the loneliness. Even on the biggest of campuses, people start leaving. People that they normally see on a Tuesday night, people that they see in the dining hall, or somebody that they might see, they're coming in going for their workout or play pickup or whatever. It's just a lonely feeling. As a coach, you have to be aware of that. You have to be dead certain that you're addressing it, that you're talking to your players about covering each other's back. So you have the empty campus. So even in situations where you're using the dining hall, hours are cut back. The players have to be aware of that. The other thing is, with it being less rigid in terms of a schedule, can't have players sleeping until 1 o'clock and then walking into a practice at 2 o'clock, or a shoot around for a game that night. Their minds are drifting. I don't care how mentally sound your team is or an individual is, your minds drift at this time. Man, I wonder what my boys are doing at home, or hasn't seen his girlfriend and a chance to get with mom and dad and have a home cooked meal, and just to have somebody that really loves you be around. Your mind drifts. And then the exam pressure. Okay? We cannot minimize that for anybody on any of these campuses. Oftentimes, young people take exams as if this is it. My comment would be, what have you done the first 15 weeks of the semester? This is one test. This is one opportunity. It's like one game. So for 15 weeks, if you've hacked off, then no amount of preparation or pressure that you put on yourself is going to change the result from that class. Did you gain the knowledge in order to perform? Did you gain information in practice to perform in the game? It's the same as for an exam and a final exam. Coaches have to go shorter because players' schedules are kind of moved all around. Now, in the new world with online and submit it by midnight, group work, more group work, but coaches have to be very conscientious of going shorter, but being sharper with their teams. You have to maintain focus because your goal is still to get better. You're only a third of the way through the season, right? And then you have to avoid staleness, the idea of laying around all day and just do no, 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 no. It can't be just books, and it can't be just basketball. You have to avoid staleness by giving energy. Maybe it's a community service project that you engage in with your team. Maybe it's an individual film session instead of a team film session. You have to be alert, and let's call it, coaches are teachers. So teachers have to be aware of what the pressures are for these players athletically. Coaches have to be aware of the pressures that are going on with them socially and in terms of academics.
I obviously have no idea what that schedule may look like as a Division 1 student athlete, balancing basketball, the books, all of that. And as a coach, I'm sure you've had to juggle so much of that through the years with so many players. But what I'm interested to know is, was there a situation where a young Phil maybe struggled during finals week trying to, juggle hoops and the books and everything?
Well, in Division 3, it's not as stringent a schedule, but I did outthink myself on an occasion. I had a tremendous, tremendous professor at Widener, Professor Buck. I can't remember his first name, but he was, remember back to Randall Miller? So in political science world, it's Randall Miller and then Professor Buck, and he went on to be as high as you could be in the academic world at Widener. And I had a class with him, and my processing was I lived 15 minutes from Chester, but if I took my exams earlier, not realizing that we still had practice, I mean, I knew we had practice, but I thought, well, if I take them earlier, I could concentrate more on basketball. So, on a very difficult political science class, I mentioned to Professor Buck that I had to get home to see family in North Carolina. I didn't have any family in North Carolina. I
Who?
was just making up a story. And he gave me the exam, and I walked into his office, and I thought I was taking the exam in his office, and he handed me the old blue book and the exam, and he said, "You can take it wherever you want." That threw me off immediately. I'm taking it before the rest of the class. I'm taking it alone, and I'm taking it maybe not quite as prepared as I could have been or should have been. And I looked at the blue book and looked at him and said, "I could take this anywhere I want." And he just offhandedly said, "You want to go to the library? Go to the library. If you want to go to your dorm room, go to your dorm room. It doesn't really matter." So I'm processing, well, does the exam not matter? Or is this exam so hard that it doesn't matter where I take it? So here I am, 18 years old. Right decision. I'm going to go back to my dorm room. I'm going to get into the bunk bed. I'm going to sit in the bed and try and take this exam. It was impossible. It was absolutely impossible. I would sit, I would look at a question, then I'd look around and say, you know what? I'm going to go brush my teeth. And I was just wandering around this room trying to take a very challenging exam with the idea like I'm smarter than everybody because I'm taking it early, thinking, well, maybe Professor Buck wouldn't have it as challenging. I never did that again. I was always one of those going, well, can I get an extension?
Yeah.
Can I stay in my dorm room longer? But yeah, that was my my idea to outsmart the system, and the system smacked me.
You've never had the pleasure of doing it, but it sounds like you would not work well in a work from home setting with all those distractions at play, trying to get your work because you bring it to your dorm and
No,
you couldn't do anything.
No, work from home. That was challenging. My first year at Michigan, when we had COVID, and I think we were home for 55 days, and we were scheduling things, and I would be twisting and moving and uh, you know doing all these and being not technologically sound. It was daunting, believe me.
It's tough. It's definitely not for everybody. We have a unbelievable guest coming up in just a moment. But before we welcome them on, we do, of course, want to get to the Martelli Minute.
For sure. Martelli Minute brought to you by Status Solutions Network. Status Solutions Network is committed to making a difference by providing Alicia Law compliant safety technology to schools through a grant of use, ensuring that financial barriers never stand between students and proper safety. Each community, your community, has the power to create real change. Learn more at statussolutions.com. Statussolutions.com. And we're so appreciative of their sponsorship. And their sponsorship is begetting us other sponsorships and a lot of work that we're doing behind the scenes to really flesh out the Make a Difference podcast. Here they are. Take advantage of every opportunity to rest, recharge, rejuvenate. That's a really good one for the students now between semesters and for our younger students who are now going into a semester break, a Christmas break. Take advantage of every opportunity to rest, recharge, rejuvenate. Understand that seeing your actions will motivate others to follow, not hearing your words. Your actions will motivate others. It's not your words. Through the trials and tribulations that we all face, they will cause you and force you and encourage you. Trials and tribulations will do all of those. Keep your head up and your eyes on the prize. So through your trials, through your tribulations, they should lead you. They will lead you to keep your head up and your eyes on the prize. And to finish the Martelli Minute, and that's Instagram, Phil_Martelli, we have this. So many of you have reached out to help David Kelleher from last week's show and his adopted child, that it touched hearts throughout his organization. He called me repeatedly to say thank you, thank you, thank you. That's a Martelli Minute. The fact that all of these people reached out to help a child in need and to help David Kelleher, who's doing so much in the community, we are deeply appreciative of the support you've given.
I don't want to set things up too much for our next guest here because they have big shoes to fill, and I'm sure he wears a big pair of sneakers. This next guest we have, do you want to welcome him on?
Sure. I want to welcome him in this way. Hunter Dickinson is a very, very special guy. First of all, he's a college student who is preparing for, I don't know if there's any college courses left for him to take after this amount of time that he's been in school, but he got up an hour early. Kansas is on a 2-game losing streak, but Hunter didn't change. Hunter agreed to the date. He made it work. He's got so much going on. I became aware of Hunter as a 9th grader. He was with a national level program at DeMatha and a national level AAU program with Team Takeover. That pales in comparison to getting to know him as a human being and his unbelievable family. Through the recruiting process, it became a pleasure. And I'm delighted to be able to say to everybody out there, Hunter Dickinson is not just a player that I recruited, but he is a friend. It means a great deal to have Hunter Dickinson on Make a Difference.
Hunter, how we doing?
Good. How are you guys?
Good, man. Quite the introduction there.
Hunt's a special guy. Hunt is just a special, special guy. And we're going to get into a lot of it because wherever he's been, he's made a difference. And when you hear some of these stories and some of the people, and you think, well, why? Why if he's been a known basketball player since he was in the 7th or 8th grade, Hunt? When did your journey start?
I would say I probably started getting a lot of attention like 8th grade, like probably a little bit 7th grade, but mostly 8th grade is when I started to really blow up.
So, Hunt, take us through your journey. Tell us where you were as a 5th grader. Who were you as a 5th grader in terms of the person that the player that you were becoming, and sometimes larger than life persona that you have? Give us your journey, Hunt.
I'd say, when I first started playing basketball, I was always, taller than the rest of the people. So like 2nd, 3rd grade, I was a really good player, like on a really good AAU team, even though that didn't really matter. And then I think, as I started to get a little bit older, like middle school, end of elementary school, I didn't really take basketball too seriously. I was a heavy gamer, Phil, playing in the video games like 7-8 hours a day. And I think that's kind of what, I think I kind of started to see a separation between me and the rest of the players that I was playing against. And I kind of felt like I was, always on the bench, not really playing that much. And, basketball, I feel like wasn't like, it was still fun, but like I wasn't playing, like I wasn't that good. And then middle school hit and I still continued to grow. And I felt like that's when I kind of, really started to take off. I was starting to take it a little bit more seriously. taking, less time with the video games and more time, like, working out on the court and stuff like that. And I think, my game started to see, the difference in it. And, obviously as I kept growing, got closer to the basket and stuff started to become easier and easier for me. And, once I got to high school, that's when, college offers started to come, playing at DeMatha. I was fortunate enough to have, 5 guys go Division I my freshman year. And so there's a lot of schools coming to our workouts. We had DJ Harvey. So, a lot of schools wanted him. And I was able to get my first offer from Alabama because of that. They came to see him. And on the first day of workouts, Coach Avery Johnson, I think he called my brother, and then my brother put me on the phone and offered me a scholarship. I remember that night I was so excited because I was like, man, if I really wanted to right now, I could commit to a college and have that offer. And that was super exciting for me. And then I think like they heard Notre Dame heard about that because Mike Bray obviously went to DeMatha. And so he came like another week later and then offered me a scholarship right after that. So I get like 2 offers in the first like 2 weeks of playing high school basketball. So that was super fun for me. Then high school, my freshman year happened, and then sophomore year started to really break out. And then like by junior year, I was already pretty much established as a top 30 player in the country and pretty much had, whatever school I wanted to commit to at the time. And then, senior year, took all my visits, and then I just felt right with Coach Howard at Michigan. Obviously, Phil Martelli, you did a lot of work in that. Just felt like that coaching staff. When you're making a college decision, I feel like a lot of kids these days don't put this into perspective. But you're making a decision for the rest of your life, and I felt like Coach Howard was the guy that I wanted to trust my future with in terms of basketball and also just in terms of life. And it turned out to be a great decision for me.
Hunt, along the way, your family has been not only supportive but loving. Give us the background and their role in your journey. Really, how have they made this difference? How have they made Hunter Dickinson the man, not Hunter Dickinson the player? Just give people an idea of your family background.
Yeah, I think it starts with probably, schooling. Growing up, my parents always, made it a priority to put me in, the best possible school they could, even though, they might have not been able to afford it at the time or stuff like that. They figured that out later. Like they always made sure to put my academics, as a priority. And I think that started, with me going to like a really good middle school, and then obviously DeMatha being a prestigious academic and also athletic institution. I think, that's probably where it started. But then also them just always making time for me and my brothers. Like, they both worked, and so they both had busy schedules. But, having 3 boys who all played sports, could be really busy for them. And so they were always constantly on the road, constantly, sacrificing their time for us. Like my middle brother, he played for the Hershey Bears, and we lived in D.C. And so he would drive. I would go too. I would go right after school. We would go and drive like almost 2 hours, like an hour 45, like twice a week for him to go to hockey practice. And so like, I think that kind of just speaks to my parents and the kind of sacrifices they made for us, always making sure like I played on, like I was able to go to all the tournaments and stuff like that. Cause tournaments are expensive. I never realized it, but like, you got sometimes travel fees with, airlines and stuff like that, also hotels, and then paying for all, the food and stuff like that. Like it started racking up, and just super grateful for them for that. Like they always believed in me. They always believed in me and my brother's dreams, and so supportive. And I feel like, I always felt that support. And then I think the main thing, especially now, like they've never wanted anything from me. They've always felt like this is, this is my career. This isn't like their career that they're vicariously living through me. And I think you see that a lot with parents nowadays who, they have a really good son or daughter who is really good at sports, and they kind of feel like it's their time too when, they're trying to live through their kid. And I think that really hurts the kid in a lot of circumstances. Like I know Phil's probably can speak to this, but I feel like a lot of parents can kind of, hurt their kid in a lot of ways, especially recruiting, where, you see a kid who has a crazy dad or a crazy mom, and, that can affect their recruiting for sure. And I'm super grateful for my parents that, they're just really, really humble, really stayed down people that were able to support me on my journey.
That's beautiful, Hunt. Beautiful.
Hunter, that upbringing is so vital, but I do have to give a quick shout out to the Hershey Bears there. I spent the past 2 years in Harrisburg covering the Hershey Bears. I mean, that is a hockey experience unlike any other, and I'm sure you got a good taste of that. But one thing I wanted to ask about, which Phil mentioned, was your high school career, obviously so prolific at DeMatha from a basketball standpoint, but I had no idea. It was a tree with the class president and also the school mascot. I'm wondering how you juggled all of that back at DeMatha.
Phil, you told him? Yeah, so I would say
we have a research committee here.
I would say my governmental, my political days started with middle school. I was the class representative in 7th grade, and then that continued to 8th grade. I remember my 7th grade speech, Phil, when I was running for class rep, was that I'll bring donuts every once in a while for the students.
It's a good bribe. It's a good bribe.
And it won me the 7th and 8th grade class rep. And then once I got to DeMatha, I was like, I forget how it came about, but I was like, yeah, let me run for class rep. Like, I always felt, whatever school I've went to, I've always felt like a big school spirit, pride within the school. I always felt a lot of pride that the school I went to. So always, wanted to rep my school. Always felt like, my school is really good and I want to make a difference in that school. And so when I got to DeMatha, I ran for class rep as a freshman and I won it. And so I kind of stayed in that. And then junior year was elections for class president. And I was like, if you're in the government, Phil, you might as well make it all the way to the top. So I ran for student body president and I won. So I was the president of DeMatha. And yes, so our mascot's the stag. And so we had a stag outfit that I had seen, like, in big school events and stuff like that. You see the stag. And then one day for a football game, like, nobody had worn it in like a year or two. And I was like, I kind of want to wear the mascot. And I asked the person who like would know where it is, and they're like, that's not going to fit you. I'm like, let me just try it on, man. Let me try it on. And so I tried it on. Obviously, like, the legs didn't fit, like the arms really didn't fit, but like I could put it on and I could wear it. And so I went to the football game in it, and like obviously, like it was a fun time because, like, they see a 7-foot stag, and it was just a good time, and I enjoyed it, and it made a lot of headlines within the school. And so I did it a couple more times that year, but then the school kind of caught on, was like, oh, we can use this. And so when we would have like open house and stuff like that, and a lot of people come, they would always make me dress up in the stag costume. So yeah, I was the school mascot for a good amount of football games, and then also for like open house and stuff like that.
And you thought I wasn't telling you the truth?
No, I believed it. I just found it hard to believe that your high school mascot would be able to fit a 7-foot tall guy. That was I'm glad that you clarified that it was probably a little bit snug. Now, when you run out of eligibility now, is it possible you're going to maybe turn and think, hey, maybe I'll try out as the Jayhawk, or what's the plan there?
See, I don't know if the Jayhawk will fit me, because I feel like the stag was more of a one size fits all. I feel like, Big J and Little J, I feel like you have to fit in the height dimensions for those two. So I don't know. I don't know if I can swing that one.
Fair enough.
So Hunt, you are a monster fan, a monster football fan of the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah.
We can't let you get off Make a Difference without asking this question. Have you ever, as a Bills fan now, Hunt, not as a college guy, but as a Bills fan, have you ever had a chance to jump through a table and be a true member of the Bills Mafia?
No, I haven't. The only time I went to a game in Buffalo was for a preseason game when I was like 10 years old. So the jumping tables thing wasn't as, like, it was still a thing, but it wasn't as popular as it was now. And actually I've been to, I think, 2 Bills games now, and they've all been on the road. And so I haven't actually like been in Buffalo to jump through a table. I think that's more for my brothers. I think like Ben or Grant, probably Grant. Grant will probably be the one that jumps through the table. I'll probably be the one that like just records for him or something like that. I don't know. I don't know if I'll jump through the table.
And you will encourage him, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for him, you probably won't take too much encouraging. He's very the risk taker of the family.
I have to imagine that's the last thing that Bill Self would want to see is video emerging of you diving through a flaming table at a tailgate. Yeah.
There's other rites of passage you got to do, Phil. Like they got the dude's got he's got the pizza in the little file cabinet. He makes pizzas in like a little filing cabinet. Somehow he's like taking out the filing cabinet, and so he'll make like pizzas in there. Then you got the mustard and ketchup person where they just spray like a bunch of mustard and ketchup on this person when he's trying to make it a hot dog. There's a couple other rites of passage you can do other than the jumping through the table.
Now, Hunt, tell us why you are a Bills fan. This is passed on through the family.
Well, both of my parents are from Buffalo, and so it's kind of just something that's passed down. Like, both my parents, like my dad's Bills fan, and then both my brothers, my older brother Ben became a Bills fan, and so we were just watching the Bills, and I just was like, man, like we weren't that good, so it wasn't like easy decision for me. But I'm like, yo, if my family's a Bills fan, I feel like I got to root for the Bills. It's been tough, but now it's starting to become a little bit more fun with Josh Allen. He definitely makes my Sundays really fun, but sometimes the coaching can be very questionable. But I do think we have a really good shot this year, and I'm super excited to see how it turns out.
Hunt, several summers ago, I turned on the Little League World Series, and there you are sitting in the stands supporting the team from the Detroit area. What went into that thinking? And again, people don't know Hunter Dickinson, the person. This is the person. What went into that decision, and how many hours did you drive, and what stayed your connection with that team after the Little League World Series?
So I would say I've been watching the Little League World Series since I was probably like freaking 7. Like as long as I can remember, I would watch the Little League World Series, and it was always so fun watching it. And Williamsport was like far, but not too far away. Like Pennsylvania's not too far from DC. And so I was always like, man, like I would love to go. I'd love to go and like see it, but it just never like me and my family never thought about like ever actually going. I think we drove by it one time and like it was super packed, but I don't know. We just never was like, oh yeah, let's go to the Little League World Series. And so it was COVID. I just declared to come back to Michigan after my freshman year, and I was like, man, like I really wish I could go to the Little League World Series. Like for some reason, like I tweeted that out, and the coach for the Michigan team was like, or I think it was either the coach or somebody that knows the coach was like, yo, he can get you tickets to the game if you come. And I was like, I told my dad, I'm like, Dad, like we should definitely go. And this is like a couple days before I had to go report back to Michigan for the year. Mm-hmm. And he was like, all right, bet. And so me and him drove up like the next day, like 3 hours, I think, maybe 3.5. And we drove up for the game, and it was COVID. So there was only like family tickets. So it was only like the team, their family, and the other team and their family. So it was like super empty, but it was super fun. It was incredibly fun. Like just seeing the ballpark and seeing everything. The game went by so fast. Like I still remember it, but it went by so fast. It was super cool just to see the kids and like, how excited they were to see me at the game. That was kind of like when I was first blowing up. And so that was cool. I stayed in contact. I think I still follow like 2 of the players on Instagram. But it was a super cool experience to go there and see the Little League World Series. I think it was probably better that I didn't go with a lot of people because it kind of made the experience like a little bit more privatized and almost like VIP almost. But it was a fun experience that I'll never forget.
Yeah. Going forward now, you have this profile, but going forward, and I know giving back is a big part of your upbringing. What are your plans to make a difference going forward? Whether it be in the Kansas community, the basketball community, what a year from now, how will Hunter Dickinson still be making a difference?
Yeah, I would say, because I always thought about, when I'm religious, as you know, Phil, Catholic gang over here. I always figured, what is my purpose? Like you always think like, what is your purpose in life? Like, why does God have you here? And I feel like, for me, obviously, he gave me some basketball talent, and I feel like, with that basketball talent, you're able to earn money, obviously, and have a career in that. And I feel like for me, my goal is to, give back and make other people's lives easier. And so, that's pretty much what I feel like, my end goal is to be able to make enough money to where I can go out and affect other people's lives and, make a difference in their lives. And, people who are struggling, going through things, being able to make a difference in their lives and help them out financially, I feel like is why I'm on this earth. And so it's actually funny you brought this up because I just was texting with my NIL agent, I think 2 days ago, and we're scheduling something right now for a local, it's like a local school called the Ballard Center here in Kansas. And they pretty much take in kids from, at-risk families and stuff like that, at-risk kids who are, maybe one of their parents died or, both their parents are on drugs and, they're living with their grandmother, something like that. And I'm going to buy some toys for them. We're still trying to figure out the details, but I'm going to try to, get them their Christmas gifts. So I'm in contact with the Ballard Center right now, trying to figure out a date where we can go shop for those. So that's something that I'm doing in the near future.
Is there a way that people seeing this could maybe pitch in and help with that in any way, Hunter? Is there a way that we can maybe get involved?
That's interesting. Yeah, I'll get with my NIL agent, and we'll see if we can set up a link or something like that to where, I can match or do double on what we donate. Something like that would be super fun.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
And there it is. I mean, that's Hunter right there. The idea of using his God-given abilities to impact others. Hunt, basketball question time.
All right, let's go.
Kansas will win the national championship if fill in the blank, Hunt.
I'd say if that's because that's a question that we've been discussing the last couple of days after our two previous games. I think if we figure out how to fit all the pieces together, and obviously that's very generic and probably a very vanilla statement, but with the transfer portal, you have pretty much a new team every year, and you're getting guys that you think what you're getting, but when they come here, like they're their own unique person, and they have personalities, they have interests, skills, talents, and all that, and you got to try to make all the pieces fit. And I think you're seeing that throughout college basketball with a lot of teams getting early losses that they normally wouldn't, and I think that's a lot to do with the transfer portal because you're getting guys who you think you know what you're getting, but you're not all the way sure. It's not a guaranteed product. And so for us, we're very confident in the talent that we have. I think, we definitely think we're a team capable of winning the national championship. We feel like we're a very talented team, but we're still trying to make the pieces work. We're trying to make them fit. And I think that's what a lot of teams are doing right now. And we had a really good week of practice, but I think we're still trying to see, what players play the best together and stuff like that. And I think, obviously having a coach like Bill Self really helps with that.
So, Hunt, we end all of our guest segments on Make a Difference podcast with this question. We pretty much have an idea where this is going to go.
Okay, I got a good guess, yeah.
But who has made a difference in Hunter Dickinson's life?
Oh, that's tough, Phil. I would say my parents are if I were to go with one that probably made the most impact, and that's because they've had the most time with me in starting from obviously a young age. I think, they just instilled values in me that obviously they, Christian values and stuff, but I think they just made me kind of be a good person, following in their footsteps. I feel like they're two really good people that set a great example for me. And I think, obviously with a religious background, they always say go to church and all that stuff. But I think the most important part about being a religious person is believing that, you just got to do good things, be a good person in this world. I think that's all that God wants you to be, is somebody who is making a positive impact, not only in your life, but in other people's life, and somebody that people enjoy being around. And I think that's something that I've always tried to do, is just be a good person, make the right decisions, be a positive difference in this world.
Hunt, you are that. You are as good as it gets as a person, and I ecstatic to be able to call on you And you can call on me. You're a dear friend, Hunt, as are your parents and your brothers. It was
Thank you, Phil.
it was special for me to be able to get involved in your life. So thank you, Hunt. Thank you for this.
No, thank you, Phil. And anything you ever need, Phil, I'm here for you.
Merry Christmas to everybody, Hunter.
Merry Christmas, guys.
Hey, Hunter, thanks so much, man. Good luck the rest of the season.
Thank you.
That was, I mean, another terrific one in the books. I think we mentioned this. It's cool to see the people we talk to that are presently actively making a difference. You talk about David Kelleher, you talk about Isaiah Thomas, people that have just established something that are like, I can effectively make a change in the community that I'm involved in right now. And then you have the beginning of the process. Like you see Hunter just, he's 22, 23 years old, just fleshing it out, trying to figure out like, how can I make a change? How can I do something with the profile I have and help others? And man, it's awesome to kind of see that perspective shift so early, because it takes people a while in life to realize that's how you can help.
But I would say that the guest segment, as the thought process of putting this together and having a guest segment with that theme, think about all of the people that we've had on and all the people we're going to have on, right? We have basically have a knowledge now up until February 1st. And that's common. They're making a difference in their families, in their communities, in their schools. The thought process to go to be an All-American basketball player, to walk in a hallway and say, you know what, I can lift this community by being the Stag. That was again, each one of these surpasses my initial feeling like, oh, this is going to be good. And they all have been just remarkable. Just thank everybody out there. And I hope that everybody out there understands. Yes, he comes across as a WWE villain and all those other things. He's a skillful player, better passer than he is anything else. And he used the term, I'm put on this earth to use my skills. We could all take those words of wisdom.
I like that you frame it as a W. Like he kind of has in the past had a little bit of a WWE, like a heel vibe to him a little bit. Like talks a little trash. There's some fan bases I know that don't love him, but I don't know. I hope we got to kind of open people up a little bit to see that he's truly a good guy. And no matter what he's saying on the court, what he's doing off the court is a net positive for all of us.
No question.
And I loved what he said about Kansas too, because he said, oh, this might seem like a generic answer, but for a team like Kansas, the answer is simple, right? You have all the talent in the country. You just need to put everything together. And in December, you can make those mistakes. I mean, I'm sure Bill Self's probably not super happy that they've lost 2 in a row, but the reality of it is they know they have just as much talent as anybody, right?
Everybody in college basketball to realize there's still 100 days left in this marathon. 100 days, January, February, March, and you want to play into April, and the season is a little bit longer. I'm just getting some of my dates for the Final Four and the NIT Final Four. So daily progress, daily improvement has always been a staple of what I believed in terms of whatever program I'm in, and that stays true now.
I do think that they have probably just as good a chance as anybody, though. You're right.
We might have to take the podcast on the road to San Antonio. We'll do it live from the lobby of the Final Four hotels.
Maybe we'll have to start making maybe having some conversations about that. That could be quite some fun. But before we get to San Antonio, we do have to get to where you've been in the past week, and we talked about you got to do some cool stuff. I think there's something you forgot that I will bring up in case you did forget. But where in the world has Phil Martelli been?
Well, I had a chance to see my son Philip's team at Bryan. I saw my son Jimmy's team at Penn State. I started with the Purdue-Penn State game. Terrific execution by Penn State. Great performance against the team that's picked to win the league. And when I first started to pay attention, I was like, this score seems backwards, but Penn State was up plus 20 and maintained that throughout the game. The next night I saw Bryant and Brown in an unbelievable game, a Friday night game in Rhode Island at home, Brian at home for the first time in 6 weeks. And they get edged out at the very end on a well-executed play by Brown. Saturday, I was able to go to Kingsway Regional Youth Clinic, hosted by Janine Reynolds. Great player at St. Joseph's, unbelievable shooter, basketball nut. She has coached AAU boys teams. She has coached AAU girls teams. She's been involved in every level of basketball. She was kind enough to invite me over to their clinic. I got back in order to see St. Mary Magdalene with Madeline Jeffries, my granddaughter, her 5th and 6th grade team. I got to see them play twice over the weekend, and drove to Rutgers to see Penn State Rutgers. Atmosphere at the RAC beyond wild, but not over the top wild. I've been there when it's been over the top wild. This was passionate for their team. Their team needed them. Got plus 18 in the first half. Penn State came back under a minute, down 2 with the ball, and had 2 different occasions to tie or take the lead. That didn't happen. I was glad that I was there. And then met up with my son, Jim, at the Phelps School for an unbelievable high school game, prep school game, College Achieve Academy from New Jersey versus Phelps. Decided with 1/10 of a second left on a foul 92 feet from the basket. And a luncheon with an all-time person. Eventually will be on the podcast because he has made a difference his whole life. Don DeJulia hosted a luncheon for retired employees. I happened to be in there. Now, I have to admit, I only got there for about 15 minutes, but boy, did I see some of the greats, Jim Brown and Larry Doherty and Eileen Brown and Joe Brown and Phil Denny. It was Bob Lynch. Just, I get chills thinking about it.
I did have the distinct pleasure of working with Larry Dock over at Temple. And it wasn't until I think my junior year that I realized that he had been at St. Joe's for years. And I was like, oh my gosh, like we had a lot to catch up. I was too young to even realize that he was there for some prime Hawks years, which is awesome. I mean, a great guy. I mean, that whole crew, unbelievable. There's one thing you missed, by the way. And if a lot of I would say many of our viewers might have caught you on the baseline last week.
That's right. That's right. I got an invitation from Dave Grandy, a couple years older than me at St. Joe Prep, but in the basketball program. Ultra successful businessman in North Jersey, high school coach in North Jersey, 4 season tickets right underneath the basket. They do everything for those people except chew their food. Everything else they do for you. They park your car. They walk you into the building. And Dave reached out to me. This is the thought process. Again, you think others thinking of others, particularly at this time of the year. He reached out and said, I have 4 tickets for Friday night, Orlando Magic with Franz Wagner, who we coached at Michigan, Mo Wagner, who went to Michigan, Caleb Houston, who we coached, and Jed Howard. Would you be able to use those tickets? And so we went to the game. And being that close, like you think you know, but then when you get there and realize how extraordinarily gifted you have to be to play in that league, right? Great effort. Little did I know that Franz Wagner had incurred an injury that is now going to keep him out for 4 weeks, but he's playing like an all-star. He's
unbelievable.
He had 20 points in the first quarter, right? 15 and a quarter, 20 and a half.
I was going to say, wait, no, they played, I think, the Magic back-to-back. I think he had 35 in their win down in Orlando against this. I mean, he has really blossomed into a star in the league. It's really, I mean, that's got to be fun to see. And I know you got the chance to speak with him as well. And
all those guys. And The way you treat people is the way you should be measured. And all of those guys, superstar level, and they're superstar players. Anybody that makes that league is a superstar. So I did, and I was shocked. I received an email from a friend of mine, a basketball coaching friend of mine in Poland, saying I saw, and I was trying to calculate what time he was watching this game, and how could he know that I was sitting on the baseline? But he sent me an email in the middle of that game.
That's awesome.
I couldn't get the email until I came home, and I gave it to Judy and said, "Can somebody open this for me so I have some idea what's going on?" But that's where I was.
That is, I mean, that's unbelievable. We talked a little bit about Penn State, and you're going to get the chance to see some more Penn State, by the way, which I think
weekend. Over the weekend, we're going up for a family visit with Jimmy and Julie, Brinley and Avery and Callan. Probably be our Christmas visit with them. And they play Coppin State. Now, the dilemma is this. Coppin State, Penn State, 12:30. I have to find a TV because at 2 o'clock, Bryant, Fordham, Mohegan Sun. And I'm both teams have me very intrigued. Penn State style, Mike Rhodes coaching. You and I talked off air about their 3-point shooting will dictate how far they go in the Big Ten. Their defensive pressure, they have to create turnovers because my sense is they will get out rebounded most nights in the Big Ten. But if they can make more threes and they can turn the other team over, we could be talking about a surprise team. I'm just will be forever grateful for Mike Rhodes giving Jimmy the chance at VCU, taking him to Penn State. And I know that Jimmy gives more than he takes. That's a great way to be an assistant coach.
I think one of the, we mentioned, that's a team I saw up close and personal, for the past 2 years. And I've been blown away with Mike Rhodes just since he got there. I mean, just he's so bought in, the style he wants to play, the way he has coached those guys. And you mentioned the defensive pressure that they have is unbelievable. I mean, they are just so tenacious on that side of the floor that even in a tough physical conference like the Big Ten, there are a lot of guys that just like, I don't want to deal with that. And you look at a team like Purdue, who's as talented as anybody in the country. They came in there on a random weeknight and they were like, I don't have it in me tonight to deal with that. And that's a signature win for them that is going to carry them as long as they continue to make a little bit of noise in the Big Ten conference. So
yeah, the big deal in all conference plays, win your home games, go on the road and win games you're supposed to win, where it's equal talent, you're a little bit better, then win those games. Then March is going to be a very happy month for you.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure that'll be a fun weekend in general, but cool to be able to, that's the first time you'll probably get up there to see them in person up there, which should be a lot of fun. And I think for you, just in general, getting the chance to see the fam and take in so much more hoops. I mean, I feel like you're seeing more hoops now than you were when you were a coach.
Yeah. And when you factor in the next week, where will I be going?
Mm-hmm.
So we talked about Coppin and watching Bryant and an NIT committee. I'm on the NIT selection committee. We'll be making a call this week to kind of set up the parameters for that tournament. I'm going to have a chance to talk at the Union League on Tuesday night with Mechanical Club. It blows my mind that that's an opportunity. I'm going to start to prep for ESPN. I think it's ESPN2 next Friday night in Cincinnati, Heritage Bank Arena, Cincinnati, Dayton. I don't think that there's going to be a lot of wishing of Merry Christmas across the aisle with the fans and the players, but can you imagine a game like that on December 20? That's high level. That's high level hoops. Both teams, postseason teams, but high level hoops for ESPN. And then a 5 a.m. flight back because Penn State plays Drexel at the Wells Fargo Center. How about this one? Because you covered both sports. Penn State Drexel at Wells Fargo, scheduled to tip at 12 o'clock, with contributions made to both NIL collectives. At 12 o'clock in State College, the kickoff for the college football playoff.
I think people are going to be tuned in to that college football playoff.
It's going to be a bit of a head scratcher, but that's what's coming up. I'm excited. And as always, we'll be prepping for next week's podcast guest who has made a difference playing the sport, coaching the sport, administering the sport at a conference level, and now a top level conference leader. That's next week's guest.
Do you want to, should I drum roll, or
you can do drum roll if you want?
I don't know if I.
South Jersey's own Bernadette McGlade will be next week's Make a Difference podcast guest.
The commissioner of the A10. It's going to be awesome to hear from her just on a number of topics, but namely just where the conference is going as they continue to kind of maintain their excellence as, like, I would say, the premier, mid-major basketball conference, right? I mean, there's just so much history there, so much history.
Maybe there'll be an expansion statement made. Who knows?
Maybe
we could go in a lot of different directions, but the growth of women's game. Bernadette was an All-American high school player, college player, legendary rebounder at North Carolina. North Carolina just named an unknown guy to coach football. We probably have to talk about that.
Oh, yeah. I did he have any experience?
Not that I know of. Not at the college level.
I'll tell you what, that's another longtime coach jumped into the podcast game, and I guess it wasn't for him. He's like, get me, I don't care where it is, get me back in. I got to get back on the sidelines. Well, once again, I mean, an unbelievable guest. Hunter Dickinson joined us today. I mean, what more can we say? He was awesome. He was a lot of fun. Talking about his Bills fandom. I was a little worried, by the way, just circling back to that. I was like, where's this Bills fandom coming? And then he said, my parents are both from Buffalo. I was like, okay, you're not, turning your back on the Commanders or the Ravens, being the DMV gods. So that if it goes back, if it's passed down from the family, I think it's fair.
It's a
right?
family. Yeah.
That's fair.
Tim and Kathy, who's great parents.
That is fair. So next week, Bernadette McGlade, the A10 commissioner, coming on to join us. Going to be a ton of fun talking ball with her. Once again, if you are looking to get in touch with Phil in any way to help make a difference, go to pnjmakeadifference.com. You can tell him your story. That is where he is trying to get boots on the ground and make a difference in any way, in any setting that he can. If you're enjoying the podcast, we would really appreciate it if you like and subscribe on YouTube. Give us a 5-star rating on any podcast platform you're listening on, whether that be Spotify, Apple, or another. You can follow us at Make a Difference Pod on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Make a Diff Pod on X. We are also on Facebook as well. Make a Difference with Phil Martelli. That is it for another absolute rock star of an episode. For Phil, I'm Jared. Peace.